Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страны.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Ті, хто воде всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Наші
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 774 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And there's some pretty big news happening today, and it's also the best night of the week. It's fundraising night. Yeah!
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, and also the past 24 hours of the ongoing rising tensions within the Middle East here on the stream tonight. There is a lot of breaking news. We have been hearing that apparently the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has been hit directly on its reactor housing several times. We've also been able to hear that there has been a massive oil depot fire within the city of Krasnodar. We have also heard major news about a brand new kind of jet-powered fast attack drone, or fast recon drone, being spotted within the Belgorod Oblast, being used by the Free Russian Army. We've also heard major news of the Ukrainian frontline actions today. And not only that, a couple of other things in between. It has been an absolutely massive day of news again. But before we get into that, I of course have to give a quick note that it is the Sunday fundraiser night tonight, while I stutter my way through that. And tonight's fundraiser is for Revive Soldiers of Ukraine, an incredible nonprofit organization that is based out of the Bucha Hospital European area that helps to conduct rehabilitation efforts for soldiers that have been severely wounded in the actions of the defense of Ukraine. It is an amazing nonprofit that has been at work for an incredibly long time, and every little bit of support they get helps them to save another soldier of Ukraine. So make sure to support the fundraiser tonight and help it to get up to the $3,000 goal, because the Lee Spring Army has never missed a fundraiser goal in its history, and it will certainly not do that again tonight. But with that,
man, I'm telling you what, between Razom for Ukraine and also Revive Soldiers of Ukraine, we are like powerhouses for raising money for those two. Like, we've raised a ton of money for both of those charities for many weeks. Like, it's very impressive. I'm sure tonight's going to be another big success.
And it certainly will be, and I cannot wait to see us blow through that fundraiser goal and get well beyond it incredibly soon. But with that, we're going to be moving on into the area of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to some somewhat concerning news that we've been hearing just recently. Apparently, according to the director of the International International Atomic Energy Association, we have been able to hear that the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has been hit directly 3 entire times. And when we mean directly, we do not mean on the territory of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We mean that the reactor housings of the power plant have been hit directly 3 times from what has been counted by the IAEA, and it appears that the situation around the power plant is a lot more serious than we originally believed. This is something that is incredibly concerning, considering that a direct hit to the power plant housings could cause major accidents or major issues inside, especially with the very intricate workings of a nuclear power plant. But nevertheless, that's what we heard today. We were able to get this news from the Kyiv Independent, where they said that the IAEA confirms that 3 direct strikes on main reactor containment structures of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant have been confirmed. The main reactor containment structures of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant had suffered at least 3 direct strikes, according to the IAEA Director, General Rafael Grossi. This is an incredibly serious incident, and once again, it's starting to show that the situation around the ZNPP has been a lot more serious than we have been led to believe. Direct hits to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant's reactor housings is something that has been generally dispelled for quite a long time in the public sphere, and many officials have said that absolutely no such thing has occurred, and it's not getting anywhere near to that. In fact, we've also been hearing that it's been so safe that Russian forces are using some of the reactor housings to put their military vehicles into and keep them there. We are not sure entirely who is the one who's directly hit the reactor housings, but nevertheless, it is an incredibly concerning and serious situation to hear that the reactor is once again under a direct threat of attack and has been attacked several times in the past already. If the reactor was to be critically hit, or the reactor housing was to be breached, this could pose an issue where control surfaces or control systems of the reactor could lose control, and the reactor could begin to go into an uncontrolled meltdown, which is one of the worst case scenarios that could ever happen with a running nuclear reactor. If that was the case, and given the fact that it's in the middle of a war zone, the recovery or cleanup efforts would probably be next to non-existent, especially considering that it's right on the very edge of the Novikakhovka reservoir, meaning that it most likely would continue to be under shelling or direct military action by the Ukrainians and the Russians, and this would be a never-ending nuclear meltdown that probably would not stop anytime into the near future. It is a very, Very concerning situation. I cannot say that enough. And a lot of people have been talking about this. Many people have brought up the old-fashioned idea, is the best way I could explain it, of wanting to create a neutral zone around the nuclear power plant where neither side can conduct armed forces operations around the power plant. The Russians, of course, have completely refused these requests in the past, and we've also seen that the Ukrainians have never really asked for the nuclear power plant to be put into a neutral zone, but they've more so been asked for it to be put under direct Ukrainian governmental control, meaning that it wouldn't really be in a neutral zone then either. It would really just change hands, but the attacks and the basing of military equipment could still happen under Ukrainian control, from what we understand. It is a very...
My only question is around this entire incident today. It's obviously a huge deal that the plant's been struck directly on the reactor building 3 times. We don't really know how spaced out those attacks were on the building, or if it was accidental or intentional or not. But it seems like since the Russians are occupying the plant, why would the Russians be trying to shell their own place? But at the same time, the Ukrainians have disavowed any involvement in hitting the plant. So it's a little bit confusing to me exactly what happened to cause the plant to get hit and who actually did it, because you would think it's the Russians, because the Ukrainians said they didn't do it. But at the same time, the Russians are there at the plant. So that's a little bit odd to me.
I would have to agree. It is incredibly odd to hear all of this going on at the same time. I would have to say, the best thing that I can get out of this is that the reactor is in incredibly grave danger at the moment, and I would have to actually say I believe there should be international intervention on the side of protecting this nuclear power plant and trying to stop it from going into a bad scenario, for example, where all of its external power lines are disconnected, or where it starts to go into some sort of a nuclear meltdown. This is once again a very concerning situation, and what's most interesting about this is that we're not hearing any more statements on a large scale anymore about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. I believe that a lot of people were dissuaded from doing that because of the entire panic that happened last year in 2023, where the Ukrainian chief of intelligence said that the reactor was going to melt down tomorrow, and then it never did. And a lot of people have decided that the ZNPP is a issue that should not be touched or even talked about because the situation is stable. But now today we're getting information showing that the situation is certainly not stable, and things are incredibly precarious, if not wildly dangerous, around the perimeter of the nuclear power plant. And it appears that nobody at the moment is respecting the security of the power plant or the end result that would be caused from a nuclear meltdown occurring from this area. We also do not know who hit the nuclear power plant housings. Some people are saying that it was most likely a false flag by the Russians, but the thing about false flags is that you do that to justify something else. The Russians never made a statement that the power plant had even been hit at all. This was actually coming from the IAEA itself, and it appears that the Russians didn't really even want to talk about the fact that the reactors had been hit several times. This is leading me to believe that this is most likely not a false flag attack, because when you conduct a false flag, the fact or the matter of a false flag is that people see the false flag to be able to know that it happened. If the Russians hit the nuclear power plant on their own and then they don't tell anyone, it's not serving any purpose for them, rather than possibly destabilizing the nuclear power plant and causing some sort of meltdown, and then nobody knows even why it happened, or there's really no way for the Russians to do much to work off of that. On the other end, we've also heard the Ukrainians not really making any statements either about the nuclear power plant lately, or its condition or status. Going off of this, we have absolutely no idea who actually hit it. I don't believe, at least in my opinion, that it is a false flag, just for the fact that we're not hearing anything from the Russians saying, oh my god, like the Ukrainians hit our power plant, they say it's theirs, and we're going to respond greatly to that. They have not said anything like that. In fact, they've said nothing. The Ukrainians have said nothing either. So who knows who's hit the power plant? It could be the Russians, it could be the Ukrainians. We have absolutely no idea. But nevertheless, this is still an incredibly concerning issue, and one I believe certainly needs to be addressed very soon, especially by the international world, if the Ukrainians and the Russians are now going to let this situation just rest and lie the way it is. That's not a smart idea. A lot of people have been saying that maybe it's the Russians who are trying to create a nuclear disaster. Russia is accidentally hitting it. Or it seems intentional, but some people need more info. A lot of people have had many different opinions on this incident that's happened today at the ZNPP. But Matthew, what are you thinking about this particular instance?
All right, and we did ask the audience, what were your thoughts about reports saying that Russia struck the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant with drones in 3 attacks? It looks like 64% said Russia is attempting a nuclear disaster, 20% said, it seems intentional, but I need more info, and only 6% said Russia is accidentally hitting it. And at the moment, we have to assume that Russia was the one that hit the plant, because right now Ukraine is disavowing any involvement in actually being involved in the actual damage to the plant. So we have to sort of take that at face value, because between the Russians and the Ukrainians, I'm going to always go with believing the Ukrainians first, because the Russians lie about literally everything. So to me, it sounds like 3 different attacks is probably more likely than not intentional, because how do you accidentally hit a nuclear power plant 3 times in a row? That doesn't sound very likely to me. So I'm with the 63%. I think they are trying to maybe attempt a nuclear disaster, or maybe simply trying to cause a lot of fear that one might be coming soon if Ukraine doesn't bow down to Russia's wishes. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, first off, huge shout out to DCC Prime, who just threw in a $250 donation to the fundraiser.
Dang.
Unbelievable.
Nice.
And getting it up to $2,083. And then moving on into the actual question, or more so the crux of the issue tonight, I would have to say that the Russians are most likely trying to conduct a nuclear disaster. If anyone would want to hit the nuclear power plant, it would possibly be the Russians. But the thing to me that doesn't really make a lot of sense, if the Russians wanted to create a nuclear meltdown of the power plant, they're in control of the nuclear power plant. It's just a matter of flipping some switches inside of the control rooms and leading the nuclear power plants to go awry, and then end up having a meltdown that way. It's not really like they have to blow up the power plant, because they're not really in control of it. They are in control of it, is the best way I could explain that. So I don't really know why they'd be wanting to hit the power plant and then ineffectively hit it where it hasn't actually caused any real damage. That just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So maybe maybe they're accidentally hitting it. That seems a little stupid to say, considering it's in Russian control. I would have to be honest, I don't really know what to make of this at the moment, rather than the reactors are being hit. And I see some people saying it wouldn't be Ukraine hitting it. You would think not, and I would hope not, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense for the Russians to even try and hit it in the first place. So going off of that, I would have to say, and also I'm saying it wouldn't make a lot of sense for the Russians to hit it. Some people are going to say, well, it doesn't have to make sense to Russians. But I'm saying it doesn't really make a lot of sense, and there's a much more efficient and easier way to melt down the power plant that's in Russian control. It's just by the Russians walking into the control room that they control at the moment and just flip a couple of switches and send the reactor into a meltdown of its own. That's not something that they can fail at. You can just easily walk in and do something like that anytime you want. So I'd have to say, I would have to believe, I don't really know what this is. I would have to remain undecided at the moment. I would like to believe that they would want to conduct a nuclear disaster, but the way they would be going about that, if that's the case, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And so
you know what kind of pisses me off though a little bit is the IAEA chief is the one who came out and made the statements, basically telling the whole world the main reactor building was hit by 3 different attacks. He came out and said that, and he didn't specify who actually launched the UAV, and it sounded like maybe he knew who it was, but he simply would not say out of fear of maybe some political repercussions or something like that. Now, but their whole organization has been very vague about what's actually happening at that plant, and I think sometimes they've been intentionally vague about it because they don't want to get flack from the Russians, and then they don't want to get flack from the Ukrainians. So they need to be more transparent and simply say what's going on and stop the cowardice, because this is a nuclear power plant. It's like we can't do ring around the roses with a nuclear facility. We need to know what's going on there, so that way the West can make appropriate decisions about how to respond to it.
That's true, and it's a terrible situation. It's one that everyone started to ignore at this point, because it's such a bad case situation in any way that it goes that it's really hard to even touch on it. But at the same time, this is an incredibly dangerous thing. It is in the middle of a war zone at the moment, and there are Russian forces that we have confirmed for quite a while now that are actually using the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant itself as a base of operations. The entire thing screams that it's wildly dangerous, wildly unsafe, and that something needs to change soon. I would actually advocate for not a UN-led or a NATO-led intervention on the part of the power plant. I would actually advocate for an international attempt to bring the power plant under some sort of a neutral zone or some sort of an international zone of control. That's what I would say. I would think that you could actually get a lot of people on board with that. Possibly, and this is a very big stretch, but possibly even the Chinese would get on board with that. Maybe. I don't really think they would, but you could, of course, give it a shot. And if the Chinese, the United States, all of the European countries, and also all of the East Asian countries, the largest economic movers and shakers of the world, are able to come together and say that there is going to be some sort of an internationally declared safe zone around the ZNPP, it probably would happen. And also, a lot of people are saying, why in the world do the Chinese need to be involved? The Chinese need to be involved because the Chinese are the closest thing that the Russians have to a friend. So if the Chinese step in on our side and they say that there needs to be an international neutral zone declared around that power plant, the Russians would most likely concede that one thing and allow for that neutral zone to be created without that much friction or that much trouble. So I would hope that that would be the case, and I see a lot of people saying the Chinese are helping the Russians. I do not think that the Chinese would also want to have a massive nuclear meltdown in Europe, because you have to remember that the United States and Europe are some of China's largest trading partners as far as where Chinese exports go. Europe and the United States are the two biggest ones. It's not really great to have your customers covered in a radioactive cloud, because they might not be able to buy a lot of your stuff anymore, or they may just, choose not to anymore. So they probably will want to protect their economic interests in Europe and a lot of their export partners and try and declare that international safe zone around the power plant so that way something like that would not happen. So I hope that addresses that well, at least in my opinion. Once again, that's a crapshoot kind of an idea. Probably would not happen. And a lot of people I see are saying keep China out of it. Okay, well, I guess we could start World War III over it. That's our other option. We could just start obliterating the Russians tomorrow with preemptive strikes. Maybe that'll win. But beyond that, that is the ongoing situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and it is wildly dangerous and incredibly concerning. But moving on from that and out of the area of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, moving down to the area of Krasnodar, we also got to see that a major oil depot was on fire today inside the region.
Hey, look, it's Trent Dolenko. What do you know?
Hey, look at that.
That's that's a very unfortunate fire indeed.
Man, even the dog's not happy. Man, they got that dog in him. And moving on from that and into the next clip, we also got to see the fire from another angle. And then we can see this clip here, more fire from the oil depot. And then moving on to our last clip, we get to see the fire blazing some more in our fourth clip.
Вот там пожарок штук 10. Медицина катастроф. Вот частный сектор, дома. Это район поселка Индустриального. И непонятно, это у нас промзона или частный сектор, или наоборот, или как это, коллаборация промзоны с частным сектором. В общем, горит уже который склад, черный дым, весь на поселок идет. В общем, вот так.
And that's the end of that clip. But nevertheless, it is quite nice to see that another large oil depot is once again burning down inside the area of Krasnodar. Also, a huge shout out to Trent Dolenko for finding this and also posting it. Trent Dolenko is actually a big friend of the channel, and we talk to him quite frequently on Twitter about things that are going on inside of the war. But moving on from that, and on into the area of Krasnodar here on satellite footage, I believe that we can actually find these oil depots somewhere, probably around the river. And let me see if I can actually find them really quickly, because I didn't do the geolocation of this before the stream. We just heard it was from Krasnodar, and I assumed that it was somewhere from the northeastern side. At the moment, I'm not finding that quickly. But let's see if I go a little bit further north. That looks like industrial areas, but not the ones we're looking for. And let's see here. Wow, dude, the commie blocks are strong in the city, man. Like, they literally just built them in rows. That's insane. I've never seen that before. But let's see.
They're just crammed right up in there too, looking like traditional commie blocks.
Man, it's hardcore commie up in this place. But beyond that, sadly, I'm not able to find the oil depots quickly here on air and try and geolocate. Oh, actually, look at that. Here they are. Like, I literally just ran up on them. Right at the last minute, they are on the Kuban River, kind of like I was believing they were. But beyond that, these are the oil depots that caught on fire and burned to the ground. very nice to know that this facility was burned. It is in the middle of Krasnodar, by the way, so it's not really like this was a far outskirt of town. This is literally the dead center of the city. But of course, absolutely incredible to know that this little place caught on fire and ended up burning to the ground. It means that the Russians now have less oil to work off, and once again, less oil within the operational area of the Ukrainian theater of war. This once again means that the Russians will probably be limited on their abilities to draw oil and supplies from closer inside of Russia, and they'll now have to travel and venture farther into the Russian Federation to try and find the stuff they need. That fuel, that precious fuel that they need. And speaking of precious fuel, this stream has been able to do something incredible tonight. We are up to $2.4 thousand nearly on the fundraiser. We are only $600 away from the fundraiser goal. Can we make it to the
close,
fundraiser
man.
goal?
It's only 25 to 30 minutes into the stream too. That's impressive. Already at $2,300.
It is unbelievable, and I think we're going to be making it to $3,000 here incredibly soon. But with that, we're going to be moving on back into our news. Of course, nice to see another oil silo getting burned down inside of Krasnodar. But we're going to be moving on down really quickly on into the Middle East. Everyone loves the Middle East. It's such a interesting part of the East. And you know something that's very interesting that no one tells y'all is that there actually is a closer East. Like, do y'all know that? Like, you always hear about the Far East and the Middle East, but where's the Near East? No one ever says that. Matthew, do you know where the Near East is?
It's nearer to me than the other.
Yeah, it's actually just Turkey. It's Turkey. It's Turkey and kind of a little bit of the Balkans. It's really the former Ottoman Empire is what's called the Near East. Then the Middle East is this area, and then the Far East is over here in East Asia. So, pretty cool. Because no one ever says what the hell the Near East is. You just hear the Far East, the Middle East, and it's like, where's the Near East? That's the Near East. But anyways, it's all far away to me. It may as well just be the Far East for us because we're in the United States. But moving on from that, it's time for us to get on into the big Middle Eastern news because it already appears that the inevitable attack from Iran may be petering out and they may be chickening out before they even ever fire a single missile. The Iranians have come forward today with a offer for the Israelis. They said that they will not strike Israel directly if the Israelis can immediately officiate a ceasefire within Gaza and stop hostilities within the area, withdrawing their armed forces completely from the Gaza Strip and also not conducting any retaliatory strikes against Hezbollah or Hamas. This is a pretty big ask from the Iranians, but from what we heard directly from Insider Paper, and I'll read the direct statement, Iran has reportedly informed the U.S. that it will refrain from responding to the airstrike in which senior IRGC commanders were killed in Damascus if a ceasefire in Gaza is reached. That is the direct request by the Iranians at the moment, which is a little bit of a big ask because what they're doing is saying, we're going to stop from going to war if you don't strike our armed forces that have been attacking you for months. That seems a little weird to me. A little bit of a weird ask, I'm not going to lie. And I don't know, Matthew. I'm honestly not really buying that one. I don't think that the Israelis should accept that agreement. It makes absolutely no sense at all because here's what the Iranians are requesting. And just to put this into perspective, let me make sure to put this into perspective first and then circle back. The Hamas and Hezbollah groups are terrorist forces that were created by Iran in the 1980s, both inside of Palestine and also inside of Lebanon. And their sole purpose is fighting the West and fighting Israel in particular and trying to seek their destruction and the eventual genocide of the Israeli people who are living within the territory of Israel. If you don't believe me, that's actually in, I believe, the Hamas's equivalent of the Constitution. You can go read it for yourself and go see. But beyond that, these terrorist groups, both of them, were involved in the attack that happened on Israel on October 6th of 2023, which ended up killing about 1,500 to 2,000 Israeli civilians in a single day in a horrendous massacre. The Israelis then respond to that by bombing Hamas and Hezbollah, both in the territories they're at, and have been doing that for months. Now they attack the IRGC, which has been supplying both of those groups that work for Iran. The IRGC, of course, being an official part of Iran. And now, after they kill those commanders, Iran says, "Whoa! We won't go to war with you if you stop going to war with us." Deal? It's like that is a stupid offer. That sounds dumb because what has been going on?
Go ahead.
What has been going on for the longest time is that Iranian-backed and Iranian-aligned forces attacked Israel. Israel responds, and then the Iranians go, whoa, 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 whoa. If you don't want heat from us, then do these things and we won't go to war with you. They've practically already been at war with Israel since October 6th through the proxies. So it makes no sense for the Israelis to accept this ridiculous offer.
It also has nothing to do with the situation at all, because Iran was out there absolutely beating the drums of war just about a couple of days ago, saying that we're going to get revenge for our fallen comrades. And they kept saying over and over, we're going to attack, we're going to do it. And like, no doubt about it. Even U.S. intelligence came out and said all indications are they're getting ready to do this. Israeli intelligence also said that. So clearly they were prepared to do it. But all of a sudden they've gotten cold feet now that they're really getting to the point where they're going to have to actually execute that. And I think they're trying to find themselves an off-ramp here. Surprisingly, I wouldn't have expected this, because if they actually do find an off-ramp from the situation and de-escalate from the really bold statements they've made over the last week or so, that is going to make Iran look extremely weak, and pretty much can't take them seriously on anything from this point forward. That would be a good thing for the West, because obviously that de-escalates the whole situation and it comes to an end. But for the strength of the Iranian nation, that would be devastating to let that go like that.
I would agree. I would have to say that it's not going to be a good look for the Iranians, and also, how quick of an attempt at de-escalation is this? But also, how crazy are the demands to demand that the Israelis withdraw from the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and also, I forgot to mention this, release any of the prisoners or hostages that they're holding, all of them. So any Hamas commanders that they've captured that are currently in their control or captivity, or any of the Hamas fighters, or any of the Hezbollah fighters, or any of the Hezbollah commanders, all of them have to be released as a part of this agreement. Every single one of them. Not a single one of them can be left in Israeli hands. That is a part of the agreement as well. This is an absolutely insane agreement. And I would have to say that the Israelis probably should not comply with this agreement at all. And we've also seen that they're not showing any signs of stopping anytime soon or taking this seriously. As we started to hear that Israeli forces were removed from the city of Han Yunis, seen here at the southern end of the Gaza Strip, they're apparently falling back and moving out of the area in large numbers to apparently begin and effectuate a brand new offensive on the city of Rafah. This has already been announced by the Israeli commanders, and they're telling the Palestinian civilians that are living within Rafah currently as refugees to now move out of Rafah and head somewhere else, so that way they're not in the middle of a war zone. We were able to hear this today.
Hey, we just hit the goal! Let's go!
Let's get it, baby!
3,000 raised, let's go! Yeah!
Man, and a huge shout out to Hal Rose, who put in a $333 donation on top of, I think, another $100 donation or $110 donation, which brought it up to $3,000. $3,000 in 40 minutes. Absolutely
impressive.
Unbelievable.
So impressive.
And I gotta
tell you what, the LSA's come through yet again in just about 35 to 40 minutes this time.
I'm so proud of it. But beyond that, absolutely impressive. I gotta say, I'm so proud of y'all. I thank y'all so much once again for helping this fundraiser to get up to the goal in literally just 40 minutes. We are always wanting to help out as best we can on this channel. And the best way we can do that is through these nonprofits that we're able to fundraise for on every single Sunday. I thank y'all for helping out with that again tonight and helping this channel to once again make sure that it hits another fundraiser goal and to keep the Lee Spring Army's flag flying high, which so many of y'all have gotten y'all's flags again today, and we are so happy to hear about it and see it. But beyond that, getting back from that massive shout out to all of y'all for passing that fundraiser goal, we also got to hear that they will be attacking Rafah here incredibly soon. So with that, we see that the Israelis are not taking the Iranian demands seriously, at least as far as today went, and they're already starting to plan more offensive operations into the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, in the northern area of Israel, we've also seen what appears to be an armed forces buildup, as large amounts of armored assets are now moving forward and up into the northern Israeli area. From what we've heard, the rumor is they may possibly be trying to conduct some sort of an actual offensive, a ground offensive into southern Lebanon, possibly. There's no audio, but we can see the Namer APCs passing by the cameraman. Man, that scream, that scream bled viewers like nothing I've ever seen before. But we can see the next Namer passing by right there. And then we can now see a large armored column stopped here on the side of a road as an Israeli Apache attack helicopter flies over the column. Those are actually called Patens in Israeli service, and we can see a second one here passing over as well. We see them showing more armored vehicles. We can see them unloading a Merkava Mark IV. I believe that is an LIC. See them slowly easing it off the trailer. This is actually the part where you can screw up the most, is backing the tank off a trailer or pulling it up onto a trailer. Usually that's when the tank can flip and it ends up becoming a massive issue. But that's the end of the clip right there. But once again, showing us that there certainly is a lot of tensions that are rising within the region, and it doesn't appear that the Israelis are going to be backing down anytime soon, or from what we can tell at the moment, accepting Iranian demands, because they are continuing to mobilize their armed forces and move them into position for what they believe may become a major slugfest in between the Iranians and themselves in an upcoming conflict that most likely will begin, once again, before the end of April 9th, which means that there's about 48 to 56 hours left before this really does start to kick off. But with that, we're now going to be moving on into a big question about everything that's been going on in this area, and it actually revolves around the first thing that we said in this news. There is a big question, a massive question by so many of y'all, about whether Israel should accept that offer that Iran has made, to where Iran will not attack Israel if Israel withdraws their armed forces from Gaza, releases all of their prisoners, and not only that, they also do not conduct any offensive actions into any areas where there may be possible Iranian-affiliated groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah. A lot of people have had many different comments about this. Some people say that they shouldn't comply. Some people are saying that they ought to de-escalate. A lot of people are saying many different things, as a matter of fact, and there really is no wrong answer. But Matthew, what do you think?
All right, and on this poll question, we said that Iran offered not to strike Israel if the war in Gaza is halted, and what a generous offer that is, and should Israel take that offer? 54% said Israel will not comply and shouldn't, and 29% said yes, Israel should de-escalate, and 9% said I need more info first. And one thing I want to say is I don't really agree with the strike that was conducted on the Iranian consulate, because that did end up killing civilians, including members of the World Central Kitchen. And it seemed to be a strike which was very extremely risky because it took place right next to the Canadian embassy. But at the same time, though, that doesn't mean it's time to go to an all-out war, and Iran's been threatening that. So now that they're getting cold feet, now they're offering to not strike Israel, even though they said they would, if they halt the Gaza war, which has nothing to do at all with the IRGC commanders getting killed, but it's a little side route for Iran to sort of back out of their statement, so they've sort of dug themselves into a hole by saying that they must attack Israel. That's sort of like their off-ramp. So to me, I don't think Israel should de-escalate. I think they should hold their ground, do not negotiate with the terrorists, and see what happens from there. I would take the risk and call their bluff. I think Iran might be bluffing, and I thought they were dead serious before, I'll be honest with you. I thought they were actually going to exact revenge very quickly, but now it's looking like maybe they might be planning on backing out of that, which is a big shock to me, to be perfectly honest. If they back out of this, I'm going to be blown away. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I believe that the Israelis should not agree to those ceasefire conditions, or really the de-escalation demands by the Iranians. The Iranians really did, and I want to make this very clear, the Iranians started this conflict with Israel that led to the deaths of those IRGC commanders. They did that by supporting Iranian terrorist-aligned groups within the region, Hamas and Hezbollah, which ended up conducting joint strikes on Israel back on October 7th. Correction there. I actually said October 6th earlier. It's actually the 7th of October. Inside of Israel, which ended up killing a large amount of civilians. The Israelis have responded and have ended up bombarding the Hamas forces inside the Gaza Strip, and have also bombarded the Hezbollah forces inside of Lebanon, and they're still doing that at the moment. That's what led to the death of the IRGC commanders, because anyone who knows anything about the Middle East and how the proxy groups work there, every single Iranian-affiliated group works very closely with the IRGC and also gets a lot of their supplies and training from IRGC forces. Meaning that if you really want to strike at the head of these terrorist organizations, the IRGC alone is the one that you want to attack, and that's what the Israelis did in Damascus. I will have to agree with Matthew, though. that the way that the Israelis went about that attack was incredibly reckless, as they did end up killing several World Central Kitchen workers, I guess is the best way to describe them. I believe they ended up killing 3 of them. We've actually fundraised on this channel before for World Central Kitchen, and it was incredibly unfortunate to hear that some of those folks that were involved in helping out Ukraine ended up being killed in that strike. They also ended up almost causing damage and wounding Canadian embassy members. Not only that, they also ended up causing a lot of collateral civilian casualties as well, which should never be supported in any kind of a conflict. Of course, there is a lot to be said about that, however, because many people may have been hearing that there have been incredibly large amounts of Israeli barrages, or more so airstrikes, that have happened in the Gaza Strip, which have ended up killing a lot of civilians within the Gaza Strip, from what we understand. We can't take the Palestinian numbers, though. I'm going to say that really quickly, because we know that the Palestinian numbers are massively overinflated, and those are also being made by Hamas, so they'll say something like 90,000 Hamas citizens have been killed. Those numbers are inaccurate. We're believing that they're about 10% of that, somewhere around that area, but that's still an incredibly high amount of civilian casualties, especially considering that the Israelis have access to modern weapons that the United States possesses, like the Ginsu blade bomb, which we know that the Israelis are able to possess and use. It was very reckless of them to use a conventional explosive to try and hit these specific IRGC commanders and end up getting a large amount of collateral in return. That's not a great thing. So that and a lot of people are going to be saying, it's war, and they're attacking whoever. I don't feel like a lot of people would be in that mindset if you were one of those World Central Kitchen workers who was just trying to help out in a bad situation in Syria, and you ended up getting obliterated in a not in a hell bomb, but getting obliterated by a JDAM. I have a feeling that the mindset wouldn't be there if you were the one who was on the receiving end of that JDAM and you weren't supposed to be. So I would have to say, beyond the somewhat reckless action I believe that the Israelis took, it is a part of a larger justified campaign against Iranian-affiliated terrorist groups that have been attacking Israel since the 7th of October. So going off of that, it seems really ridiculous that because the Israelis have been going about in a larger sense, beyond the minute details I was just talking about there, about how it may have been a reckless operation, in the larger sense, it's a part of a very good measure by the Israelis to deal with groups that are trying to lead to the demise of their own state and also to the death of many more civilians within Israel. So it's a fairly solid move for them to make. For the Iranians to then try and make it sound like that was absolutely unheard of, considering that affiliated groups of Iran have been attacking Israel for an incredibly long time at this point, and then to tell them, well, if you don't want us to go to war with you, then you need to accept our demands and leave all of our terrorist groups alone so that way they can build up and attack you again in the next few years. That seems absolutely ridiculous to me. I don't think the Israelis should follow through on taking that peace agreement. I think that is nuts to even try and take that seriously. I would tell the Iranians to bring it on and see what happens. What will happen if the Iranians do bring it on and conduct a drone and missile attack on Israel is that the Israelis will most likely intercept and shoot down most, if not all, of the incoming air targets over the first few days. We will then see the Israeli Air Force get incredibly active over the Middle East, using all of its air assets that it has at its disposal to first conduct seed missions against Iran and knock out its surface-to-air missile batteries, and once after it knocks out its air defense, it will most likely go to work dissecting and destroying different parts of the Iranian armed forces and also facilities within Iran that would help them to wage war. Not only that, if there is a nuclear weapons program that is currently ongoing in Iran, which we have a large idea that there is one that's going on right now, this will also give the Israelis the ability to destroy that nuclear weapons development facility and also knock off Iranian nuclear development again for about the next 30 years, most likely. Many people don't know about this, but back in the day, the Israelis actually did conduct an attack in Iran without a war being declared. It was an airstrike that they conducted against a nuclear weapons development facility, I believe back in the 90s, and they ended up knocking it out and pretty much detracking Iran's nuclear weapons program all the way back then. They would probably use this instance right now to once again do that again, which would lead the Iranians to having no nuclear deterrent in the future for the next 20 to 30 years, and greatly decreasing the amount of tensions that revolve around dealing with the Iranians diplomatically. As for the United States and other Western countries, including Israel, you could pretty much put anything on the table to deal with the Iranians and not have to worry about possible nuclear retaliatory strikes being conducted by an incredibly unstable and tyrannical regime. So with that, I hope that does address that well. I hope that explains why I believe that an Israeli response should not limit itself, or the Israelis should not really take a treaty with the Iranians, because it most likely will end up being a fairly good scenario for the Israelis overall. But with that, I hope that addressed it the best I can. And we're now going to be moving on out of this segment and back up into the area of Ukraine, and specifically back into the Russian Federation, near to where the Free Russian Army is currently controlling the cities of Kazinka and Gryvoron, as well as the small village of Gorkovsky that you can see right there. We have been able to see that apparently the Ukrainians have a brand new drone. This is the one that we believe it is right here. It is either I believe they called it a, what was it called, Matthew? A Banshee, or it was some other kind of Ukrainian-made drone that is very similar in design to the Banshee.
So the one you're seeing right here in this graphic is actually the Ukrainian-made one, allegedly, and there's also some speculation that it could have been either this one, which is Ukrainian-made, or it could have been the Banshee, which is this one right here, which is the gray color. But you'll notice, though, the difference is the Banshee has dual jets on the back, or at least two outlets on the back of the little aircraft here, and the other one is just a single jet engine on the Ukrainian all blacked out drone. So in the footage we saw, it looked like it was probably this one, the Ukrainian one, that was actually the one actually hitting these targets.
I would have to believe it probably is the Ukrainian one, because much like you mentioned, the Banshee clearly has two JetCat engines in the rear of the vehicle. Huge shout out to John Kuster, just threw in a $100 donation. Dang! But beyond that,
that's desperate on my part. Sorry.
But beyond that, this drone here has two engines, and we can also see that the fuselage near to the rear is greatly widened. It actually becomes wider near to the rear of the drone than towards the front. That is not the same with the Ukrainian-made one. We can actually see that it tapers off to the single nozzle for the single jet engine at the back of the drone. So I would have to believe that this is most likely the Ukrainian jet-powered long-range attack drone that we saw today. But here is the footage of this drone in flight over the area of Belgrade. In this clip, they called it the Banshee. We do not believe it's the Banshee. From what we can find, it most likely is the Ukrainian-made version that is incredibly similar to the Banshee. But here's the clip. There it goes. I mean, that thing is pretty fast.
О, полетел, еще один беспилотник.
There it is again.
And you'll see it looks like it's all blacked out, just like the one that was pictured on the ground, the Ukrainian one.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting little kamikaze drone right there. And also, it's really wild to listen to it because it sounds so similar to a larger fighter jet. Just listen to the sound of this thing.
Гляньте, Мираж закладывает.
Sounds like a little hobby drone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually really neat. I love those little JetCat engines. I think they're just the neatest thing ever. But beyond that, this is a very interesting development, because we don't really know what this thing is exactly capable of. It does have a 20-kilogram explosive inside of it, from what we know. But still, it's just wild to see something like that flying around over the skies of Russia, and no one knows really how to stop the thing. We haven't seen it get shot down yet. I believe that this picture is actually from a drone that ended up crashing and not being used in an actual attack right here, because this was taken during an incredibly snowy time of year, and the snow is completely melted in Ukraine at this point across all parts of the front line. So this picture was not taken from the drone that we saw today. It was apparently taken earlier on at some other point. But still, this thing is wild to see, and it's crazy to know that they're starting to use jet-powered drones that apparently are able to get up to higher speeds. I would assume, off of what we saw, that thing is probably getting up to speeds of around 250 to 300 miles per hour, which is going to make it a lot more difficult for ground air defense inside of Russia, if there is any at all, to try and react and stop that drone from hitting its target. We also don't know how far the range is on this drone. It does appear to be the size of a larger model aircraft, and let me see if I can get a jet-powered RC plane here on screen. Let's see here. Let me see if I can go find a picture. Because y'all probably know the RC jets I'm talking about, not the ones that you can buy from like Hobbyland or whatever. I'm talking about the ones that actually have the real model jet engines, a lot like that one has inside of it. Maybe, for example, like this RC F-104 Starfighter that was flown by the German Kriegsmarine. Something like this. It looks to be of a similar size with a larger wingspan. I've been trying to find, in the moment right there, a larger one. Maybe something along this size right here. This massive copy of an Su-35. It's somewhere around that size. We don't really know how far the range is, but I know that the flight time on these RC jets like this in real life actually isn't that long. I believe it's something like 20 to 25 minutes. So unless if it can make it, well, actually, that means that its range going off of that would be about 150 to 200 miles. So it's not as long range as the A-22 drones that we saw hitting 725 miles into Russia, but it can hit pretty far in. It could hit the city of Belgrade, Kursk, and it could probably reach out and try and hit Voronezh, which is pretty far behind the Ukrainian border region. But moving on.
Yeah, you really got to have some extra spending money to get in this hobby right here with these massive jets. Like, I have no clue what that would even cost for that jet right there. Like, maybe like $6,000 to $10,000 or something. It looks expensive as hell. Because even the smaller ones are pretty steep, like when it comes to the battery-powered ones and all that stuff. But one thing real quick I did see in the live chat, someone pointed out, let me make sure I credit who it was, by the way. It was, let's see here, Sokolov 812, who said that picture of the one on the ground in the snow was probably the test drone that the Ukrainians were testing, and took a picture of it when it was actually in the development phase, because I haven't ever heard or seen of those before. So that's probably what that's from.
Probably so. I mean, that's actually a really good idea right there. That may be where it's from, but we're not entirely sure. But I do think him for sharing that, because that's probably a better lead than anything we have at the moment of where that picture actually came from. But beyond that, that's all we know of the drone at the moment, and you know, the best approximations that we can make. But we also got to see some very interesting footage today of a old bit of clip that we never got to see before of the Freedom of Russia Legion conducting a winter raid in January of this year. We never saw this footage, but we finally got to see it today. So here's the clip. Oh, we hear a drone. You see them making their way forward. And while we watched the Freedom of Russia Legion here doing their thing a couple of months ago in a border raid, I would like to say that I would never get into the RC airplane hobby at that kind of price level, because if you ever crash that jet, you've just lost your entire hobby and all of your life savings. So I would never do that. A huge shout out to people who do. Massive respect for y'all taking on that kind of risk, but I'd be scared of crashing the thing and never having a hobby again.
Yeah, same here.
Matthew said, here. We see this guy is trying to walk in the footsteps of the other guy, so that way it's harder for them to figure out how many of them there really are. Smart guy.
And these are the Ukrainians, right?
These are the Free Russian Legion guys.
Okay, because I was noticing on this guy's rifle here, the one who's filming, it looked like he had a Sig Romeo 5-sight on it, which is the one I've got on my gun. So I was kind of curious.
Interesting. I didn't even realize that, man. That guy's got a CC Bren, though, right there. I wonder how good the CC Bren 2 really is, because it seems to be a fan favorite of Ukrainian forces. I want to review one. I want to get one and review one. Man, they're really sneaking around. They're going super sneaky. Sneaky breaky. Now, we'll say he's got a CC Bren too.
That could actually, I take that back. That could be an aim point on the top of that gun. It looks like either a Romeo or an aim point.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, that's a huge price difference between the two, so that's a big difference.
Man, we see him setting up his little AT weapon here. It looks like he's about to pop it off. On, they're aiming it. Man, this guy's picking a pretty... Oh, okay, good. So, like, this guy's picking a pretty tricky spot, firing in between two trees. I wouldn't do that. And we see him now moving up and getting ready to fire. We hear some sporadic rifle fire. We can see him getting down quickly for a moment. You know, I gotta say this. Lucky he wasn't carrying an RPG-7 right there, because the RPG-7 warhead, once you remove the cap off of the front, if you hit it on anything, even with a slight amount of pressure, it blows up in your hand. So very lucky that this guy didn't have one, because if y'all notice, when he trips right here and falls, he slams the AT-4 head first down into the ground. If that was an RPG-7, it would have blown him up and killed him. Right there. Now see him aiming at the Russian truck, firing and hitting it dead on.
And that was kind of, was that risky to like shoot that close to the tree like that? Like he was like barely grazing the tree.
Man, he was barely grazing the tree, I'll tell you that, man. It was crazy.
Сейчас ебем. Стой. Стой.
We now see the truck is burning and on fire. We see him running up with another one. Firing his second one into the truck. That truck is clearly burning now. I don't know if y'all can see that, but I can. It's burning.
У нас контакт, мы разъебашили. Сейчас.
Oh, and he's got out the nade. He's whipping out the frag.
Алекс, крой вправо! Алекс, вправо крой! Что? Да снял я, блядь! Сейчас ебану эту хуйню! Своя!
We see the truck still burning.
Изрулась! Лед, прием! Откат! Алекс, съебывай! Крою!
Things have gone very quiet now.
Плюс! Ланч на связи, все въебали, сейчас откатываемся. Давайте быстро, быстро, быстро! Быстро!
These guys are really creeping around this forest.
Man.
I just turn around and look behind them, and there's all sort of like doing the little tiptoe thing around everywhere.
Tiptoeing in my Jones, tiptoeing. There they go.
Just random riff-raff line. Oh, he's gonna flick them off. Oh, he's giving them a piece of their mind. It's like common Alabama road rage.
Screw you, learn to drive! Just something like that.
А? Ланч на связи. Машину въебали. Откатываемся.
Now you see them leaving Russia after taking out a truck. It was a very effective raid for the most part. They didn't take any losses, any wounded, and they knocked out a truck and ran off a border guard unit. This was a couple of months ago, so this isn't reflective of the current situation, but still a very interesting clip to get to see. Moving on from that, and out of the Free Russian Army area in Belgrade, it's time for us to move on into those location unknowns, where we got to see a picture of a MiG-29 cockpit as they fired off an R-27ER, which is a radar-guided air-to-air missile. Pretty cool to see. You can see the streak of the missile right there. You can also see that they pixelated the R-27ER, so you couldn't see that was an R-27ER, but we can tell that it's an R-27ER because there are certain hard points that only the R-27ER can be mounted onto on a MiG-29. Allow me to demonstrate. This pulls out a MiG-29. I didn't realize how dumb that sounds, so I said, allow me to demonstrate. And I was like, man, how the hell am I going to demonstrate that? But let me see here. Here we go. So this is a picture of a Pakistani MiG-29 right here. And you can actually see the R-27ERs are mounted on into the inner pylons. The MiG-29 can only carry 2 R-27ERs at a time. There are only 2 hard points, which are on the inner part of the wings, that can carry one of these R-27s. The other 2 on each wing, because a MiG-29 has 6 hard points total, can carry shorter range R-73s or R-60M, closer in dogfighting missiles is the best way to describe them. But the R-27ERs are long range. They cover an incredible distance, I believe around 50 to 60 miles at an effective range, and that's the one we saw fire. Because notice once again, this streak is coming from the inner part of the wing, which once again shows that it's probably an R-27ER, and we can also see the rear fins of the missile just a little bit because they're not perfectly pixelated, and they are incredibly large, which is once again indicative of an R-27. But with that, we're going to be moving on from that interesting little bit of location unknown news and moving on to our next one, where we also got to see that the Danes were teaching them Ukrainians about those trench clearing exercises. We know, Matthew, that the Danish know how to clear a trench. That is one thing that they can do incredibly well, because they realize,
the Danes
Matthew,
are great.
Yeah, they realize, man, that those Danish instructors realize that it's not a pissing contest after all. It is just raw business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nothing I hate worse than a pissing contest, I'm telling you what.
I'll tell you what, man. I have a feeling that a lot of people don't like pissing contests, but we can see them right here going through their training. Very nice to see. This guy doesn't even have a face. It's just a void. And then finally here in this last picture, we can see them on the ruck. But nevertheless, great to see them doing their thing and getting to learn how to conduct this little trench clearing exercise here and hopefully do it incredibly well. But moving on from that and out of that clip and on to our last one here in the location unknowns, we also got to see the Russian casualty report over the past 24 hours. And
oh, 10 Bobcats for Matt, just for me.
Holy moly!
That the numbers are staying so high these days for people to be saying Ukraine is struggling. Doesn't look like it's struggling to me. It looks like these numbers are pretty damn juicy. God diggity dog, these numbers are juicy.
Oh, those Ukrainians! Oh, they listen to war! And then, you know, they get loss reports like this every day. And then where is the person, Matthew, in the comments section that almost is over here daily going, no, let's see the Ukrainian losses. Like, there's like, man, I'll tell you something. Every time I see those comments, I think of that nerd meme. You know what I mean? Like the nerd emoji meme.
Oh, yeah, true.
Let's say, let me go pull that up really quickly. Let me go grab that. Because, you know, tonight's a casual night. Let's see. Nerd emoji meme. Yeah, here we go. Oh, goodness. I'm so happy I'm able to find this goofy shit. So, anyways, here's the clip that I was wanting y'all to witness, because whenever anyone is over in that comment section in Twitter and they say, where's the Ukrainian losses, huh? This is what I imagine in my head for like 2 years now.
What the hell is this? I've never seen this before in my life.
You've
Good
never
Lord.
seen this?
Hell no.
Oh, well, you know, I thought you did. You said you did. I thought you did. I swore you did.
No, I thought you were talking about something else, man. I've never seen that.
But anyway.
What in the actual Alabama hell was that?
Man, it was the nerd meme. It was the nerd emoji meme. But beyond that, it is very nice to see that the Ukrainians were able to inflict incredibly high losses on the Russians. Also, Matthew, I use that meme in my head at this point whenever anyone brings up Hot Dog Man to me. That's what plays in my head on a loop now. But still, with that, look at everyone, man, in there. They're like, what the hell is this? Look, man, I don't know what it is. I just found it. But anyways, beyond that, the losses have been incredibly good. 820 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, an incredibly high number. Not only that, 54 armored personnel carriers were destroyed, along with 79 supply trucks, 17 main battle tanks, 54 artillery pieces, 61 drones, 4 MLRSs, 4 cruise missiles, and the 10 Bobcat skid steers. All in all, it was a really good day, and I gotta say that it was wonderful to see that the Ukrainian forces were able to inflict such high losses onto the Russians and keep holding the front lines as best as they possibly can. It is once again showing that the days are good and things are only going to get better. And speaking of better, there has been a big question that we've asked y'all. The Institute for the Study of War says that Ukraine is now using drones to partially compensate for those artillery shortages. Some people are saying that that's fine and aid will be coming on the way, so it's a short-term fix for a long-term problem. Some people are saying that the Ukrainians are going to suffer because the drones just suck, naturally, for some reason. And some other people are saying that they need more info, or they're just not really sure what to think about this kind of stuff. It's a big question. It's a question that really is plaguing the minds of many around the world right now, and a lot of people here on this channel. But Matthew, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about this topic?
So I'm thinking a lot, but the audience is thinking more. And they said, "What are your?" Oh, not they didn't say this. I said, "What are your thoughts about the ISW saying that Ukraine is now using drones to partially compensate for artillery shortages?" And 67% said that's fine for now because aid is coming soon. 20% said that's not good. Ukraine will suffer in the meantime. And 6% said I need more info. So for me, obviously it's not a good thing that they're having artillery shortages because they're having to resort to other means. And obviously that's not their first preference because they want to use artillery, but now they're having to use drones. But then again, they are making some pretty big advances in the drone industry. So I think the drones will probably be a good replacement. The only catch is, can they manufacture the drones as fast as they need them? Because they were going through a ton of artillery per day. And that's part of the reason why they've run out of shells so quick. And now they're waiting on the EU and European countries to bring them more shells. And it's not going to be immediate for those shells to arrive. It's going to take a good, probably a couple of weeks or a month or so to get them to Ukraine. So the drones are a good replacement temporarily. So I'm with the 66%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that the drones are a great replacement. The drones are probably more precise and even more deadly than the artillery can actually be in the end. Of course, at shorter ranges, but artillery is desperately needed. That kind of high explosive power that artillery is able to deliver onto the battlefield is a major bonus and a huge benefit, and I hopefully would see that support is coming soon. But for now, that is a good workaround, considering that there is a massive lack of shells, but there's a decent amount of drones in the country. So that's a great way to make a substitute and try and work with that the best they possibly can. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And it's time for us to move on into something big that we have to do tonight. It's something incredibly big, and we have to make sure to do it to make sure to thank folks who have been here and doing their part in the war effort. This fundraiser has reached $3,324 raised, which is unbelievable and absolutely incredible, especially considering that it's been 774 days of war, and somehow the Lee Spring Army is still able to march on over a fundraiser goal and absolutely blow it away. I can't say enough how impressed I am and how unbelievable that really is, because so many communities have pretty much absolutely petered out on support to Ukraine here on the internet. Not a lot of them are able to raise any kind of support, and if they are, it's incredibly small, or they're hardly even able to reach their goal. But the Lee Spring Army continues to blow away goal after goal and just do it again and again and again, no matter how long the war has gone on. And it just completely amazes me. Of course, the fundraisers are smaller now than they used to be at the beginning of the war. They used to have $10,000 goals. Now they're down to $3,000 goals. But beyond that, I think that it's incredible that y'all can support Ukraine at all. No one asks y'all to support Ukraine. No one, of course, is out there saying that y'all have to support Ukraine. But nevertheless, y'all continue to do that. And y'all continue to help out just because y'all have the kindness in your hearts and the care to be able to dedicate yourselves into supporting Ukraine again through these nonprofits that we run here on this channel every single Sunday. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely incredible. And I want to make sure that we are able to give a huge shout out to the top donors to the fundraiser so far tonight. So Matthew, who are the top donors of the night?
All right, it's a pretty lengthy list, so bear with me. But our first top two donations of the night. The first one was Hal Rose, who threw in that $333 donation, which takes the first place for the largest donation of the night thus far, and a huge shout out to Hal for that. And DCC Prime 1 took the second place with $250 to the fundraiser, and huge shout out to DCC as well. And then some guy called the Enforcer threw in a $100, along with Snow White, Hal Rose once again, and then Say What threw in a $100, along with Dad Good, Plant Lady, BC Skyman, Dale Miller, The Next Wave, Gene Kustra, and Just Chillin'. And then Greg Carrier put in a $50, along with Richard McGurl, Panama Floyd, William Cullison, Zoan Tran, Axel K, Marlene Mercer LSA, Marvelous Matt, Ted Mitchell, and also Say What Yet Again. And a huge shout out to all the top donors of the night. And also, like we always say, every single Sunday, huge shout out to everyone who put in any amount, because all of it adds up. And we're now up to $3,324 raised on the fundraiser, and that is no small feat. So a huge shout out to the LSA once again for making that possible on another fantastic Sunday. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta say, huge thanks to all y'all once again who were able to help fundraise that much tonight on this fundraiser. It's absolutely unbelievable. It's absolutely incredible. And I gotta say that it's just truly amazing once again, mostly because no one has to do that. And the best way I can describe this, because I see something interesting starting to happen nowadays on the internet, is that people who have given nothing to Ukraine are starting to beat down people who give to Ukraine and say that they should give more. And it's starting to really make it quite clear to me that the statement should be, no one has to give anything to Ukraine, not a single dime or a cent. People give to Ukraine because they want to give to Ukraine, and they give as much as they can. And that is unbelievable to see that this channel is able to do so much, even working off of that. And I want to make this incredibly clear, because this is something that I'm starting to see a lot more nowadays than normal. And it's something that really aggravates me, how unappreciative people are of support that pro-Ukrainians, such as all of y'all here in the Lee Spring Army, give to help out in the war effort. Is that people who don't give a dime or don't give a cent will tell people that do support Ukraine that they're not giving enough and they need to give more. No one has to give anything. That's really the reality of it. And people ought to be grateful for what is given. And that's one thing that I'm always seeing every single night on this channel. And that's one thing I'm always appreciative of and incredibly grateful for, is that this channel, the entire Lee Spring Army, is somehow able to give $3,500 nearly so far tonight. That's $3,500 that nobody had to give at all to a fundraiser. And yet y'all were able to do it again. I think that's absolutely incredible and absolutely profound to see that the Lee Spring Army still has such a massive heart that 774 days into this war, y'all are still able to give and support. And so I got to thank every single one of y'all so much once again, both the people we were able to call out and the people we weren't able to call out, because each and every one of y'all combined was able to make this fundraiser possible tonight, make it possible for us to pass that goal, and not only that, to continue on giving in Ukraine. But nevertheless, I just hope I addressed that well. And also, some people are probably wondering, why in the world am I making a comment that nobody has to give anything to Ukraine if they don't want to? Well, because, and I'll be quite honest, I'm seeing a lot of ungratefulness on the end of people who act like they're supposed to be more given to Ukraine by random people like all of y'all right now to help them out. And the fact of the matter is that not a single person anywhere in the world owes a single thing to Ukraine unless they want to. A lot of people could wash their hands clean and walk away. And I'm starting to see that some people in the pro-Ukraine community are starting to get in the mindset that Ukraine doesn't deserve the support. They're owed the support, and they're owed even more. And they're trying to come, pretty much the best way I can explain it is that they're trying to become like mafia captains and try and act like they're supposed to extort people who are pro-Ukrainian into giving pretty much their life savings to Ukraine. Nobody owes that. And I want to make that very clear. Y'all can support it as much as y'all want to. Y'all don't have to support anything. And I want to make that incredibly clear. The same goes for this channel with Super Chats. Y'all can Super Chat if you want to, and you can decide how much. But you don't owe this channel a single dime or a cent unless you want to. And that's something I want to make very clear, because it's... And I'm trying to find out a way to word this as diplomatically as possible. There's a certain person out there that you all know of that cooks up a lot of hot dogs, and they're continuously, while giving almost nothing of their own money to Ukraine, constantly belittling and beguiling every single community they can across the internet, not just ours, but everyone's, trying to act like they're supposed to give everything they make, every single dime, and starve to death, so that way they can support Ukraine. And it's certainly making me think that the mindset with Ukraine support is that they should, that these pro-Ukrainians like the hot dog man should be grateful for any support that's given, because at the end of the day, no one has to give anything. And so that's something that I'm starting to see a lot more, and it's starting to really annoy me with how the mindset's starting to change from any support's better than no support, to you have to give everything to Ukraine or otherwise you're a sick person. And I don't really like that, and I want to make sure that folks on this channel know quite clearly that you only support Ukraine because you want to, not because you have to. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can. And with that, it is time for us to move on back into the news. But actually, before we do, let's actually address a couple of questions from the chat, and then we'll get back to the news. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right. And also, in the meantime, a huge shout out to Mike Smith, who put in a $50 donation to the fundraiser as well. And a huge shout out to Mike for that generosity. And also, one other thing I wanted to add to what the enforcer said is, we call out the top donors of the night. And, somewhat we have to do that because some people are throwing in a huge amount of money, and you have to recognize that. But then at the same time, I do recognize that $300 to some people is a lot different than $300 to the next person. And the people that throw in the donations below $50, and this is sort of tying back into what the enforcer was saying about people sort of getting on to people about not donating a certain amount of money. Sometimes $10 can be the same as $300 to some people. It just depends on where you're at with financially. So I really think it doesn't matter the amount you donate. It's about the thought behind it as well as what you're capable of actually donating that really makes a big difference. Because if all you can donate is $5, that to me is as important as donating the 300. It's the same thing. So huge shout out to literally everybody out there that donates, because if you donate anything, that is a feat, because not everybody in the United States wants to support Ukraine, and very few people actually go and take the extra measure of actually donating their own hard-earned money to Ukraine to help their war efforts. So just want to make that point to say that we appreciate literally every donation that comes in for the fundraisers, because it does mean a lot to us and also to Ukraine as well. But with that, we're jumping into our live chat questions, and the first one is going to go to Philip Fixes LSA, who says, if the ZNPP goes, Europe will be affected, and is this the catalyst necessary for France to enter the war?
I would have to say that if the nuclear power plant did go into a nuclear meltdown, it probably actually would be the catalyst for not just France to intervene, but probably many countries, really an international response to intervene. We may even see the Chinese get involved, and I know a lot of people are like, why in the world would the Chinese get involved? The Chinese would probably get involved at that point to try and gain favor with Ukraine, because they would show up in Ukraine's time of need and go, oh, look, we're trying to create this safe zone, not really acting directly in Ukraine's interest, but, just acting in the general interest, and they may be able to garner some favor with the Ukrainians after the war, or well, not really the Russians, but the Ukrainians after the war, if Ukraine ends up getting a victory, or even a draw at that point. So I would have to say that if a nuclear meltdown happened, that most likely would be a catalyst for really everything to happen in Ukraine as far as international intervention goes. Probably everyone would hop on that bandwagon and try and do that. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to O-Tubes, who says, I just read online that Russia is warning Finland against the NATO nuclear plans. And what are your thoughts about that?
I would have to say, I'm not really well informed on that at the moment, is the best way I can describe that. I don't really know a lot about that warning or what the Finns want to do. If it's about moving NATO nuclear weapons into Finland, the Russians can wish that nuclear weapons aren't in Finland, but if NATO wants them there, they will be there. And there's nothing really that the Russians can do. If it's about nuclear energy development inside of Finland, I'm not really sure if Finland has any nuclear reactors or not. That might be a little bit of a different thing. It may actually have a little bit of diplomatic sway that the Russians are warning them, but in reality, probably not so much. The Finnish economy is far more tied into the European and NATO economy nowadays than it ever would be the Russians, and so any kind of diplomatic sway that the Russians would have on Finland in either of those instances would probably be incredibly small, if not non-existent. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the final question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving right back into the frontline news.
And this one is going to go to Mad Machine, who says, could Ukraine glue a magnet on a thermite grenade that's dropped by drone onto orc armor?
You could possibly try and do that. I'm not really sure if modern armor is demagnetized. I believe some of it is. Mostly to make sure that magnetic mines are not usable and do not work. So I'd have to check and make sure that I'm correct on that. But you could possibly try and do something like that. Or you could cover a thermite grenade in pretty much a sticky tar, which is something that sticky bombs used to do a lot. You cover it in sticky tar to where when you drop it directly onto the tank, the sticky tar that surrounds the grenade ends up sticking the grenade dead onto the vehicle, and then the thermite will burn through the tar and also the armor, possibly, and cause a serious amount of damage to the tank. So you could do either one. So if it's a demagnetized armor, you could do a sticky bomb. If it's not, you could actually attach a magnet to it and probably get a good amount of results out of that kind of a bomb on a tank. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we're now going to be moving on out of this question segment and on into the area around the Kremenna Forest, where we got to see that the Ukrainians have been hitting some electronic warfare systems today, just out of the front lines. Chad music ensues. But anyways, we can see the drone coming on in.
These have some car antennae or spring on it.
Man, it has them leaf springs. Oh, and there's the drone. Oh, dead on the nail. Oh, pretty direct hits. We see them just continuously targeting the electronic warfare stations. I don't know what it is, Matthew, with me talking tonight, but I feel like I'm stuttering my way through everything. Does it sound like that?
Not really. I think it's all in your head about the stammer.
I have a stammer. But anyways, we see them continuing to hit the buildings in the area. Oh, and what's that on the ground? Oh, it was just an outhouse? Oh, it's going to be an outhouse now. They turned that thing inside out.
Call the porta potty man because there's some stuff that needs to be dealt with around here.
Oh, is that an MRAP? It is an overturned
looks like it.
MRAP. Interesting.
PE6.
And that's that physical education 6. And kabooey, they got it. And that's the end of that clip, but nice to see the 82nd Brigade continuing to do its work in the area. As James Hughes throws in a hundo. Dang! But moving on. Oh! But moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see, apparently in an interview with a Russian soldier, that a Russian soldier ended up getting killed Looney Tunes style. Here's the story. So let me really quickly turn it down so that way I can read it and let y'all hear it. Of course, the Jamus booby trap. I know of is a doorbell on a tree in the woods. Unfortunately, the guy who was walking in front saw this doorbell on the tree along the road, approached, and he pressed the button, and the whole garland of explosives went off near him, and, well, who knows what the garland is. Well, that's like a freaking April Fool's joke, a doorbell on the effing tree. Can you imagine coming up in the effing woods and pushing it? That's effed up. Honestly, I would have pushed it.
They went out there and put a button in the woods and said, "Do not press," and the Russian said, "Oh, bliat, I have to."
dude, the Russian saw a doorbell on a tree and he went, "Oh, might be a washing machine in here, ding dong!" And then a giant garland of bombs just fell on top.
What
of
a
the guy.
ding dong
Oh
though! Who the hell is literally like that's some Looney Tunes type crap? Like who's really going to go press the doorbell out in the woods? It's like what the hell was he expecting to happen? Like oh, Baba Yaga's behind the door. It's like there's no door, Goofy. It's just like what's the doorbell for?
Man, I'll tell you what. Hang on, let me go get this picture. Hang on, hold on. Wait, I gotta get the right one. So, you know, Matthew, that Russian guy who ended up pushing the doorbell, he ended up looking like this.
Ah, damn.
Damn.
Damn, son. Where'd you find that beak?
That's Chris's mom right there you're talking about. Add some respect.
Damn. Wait a minute. Why is there no like opening in the duck's face though? Like when you notice his beak got taken off, there was like literally just fur on the beak.
So funnily enough, Matthew, there's actually a theory that Daffy Duck is actually like Marvin the Martian in the cartoons. You know what I'm talking about? Like the Martian guy.
Yeah.
He's actually one of the Martians, but he puts on the duck bill just to make himself look more normal in the Looney Tunes world. There's a theory going on. Yeah, so there's a whole theory about why he can do that, or why the bill doesn't really seem to actually do anything, rather than just be there for aesthetic reasons. But anyways, that's what that Russian guy ended up looking like at the end of this. Because that was a pure Looney Tunes thing. And who the hell was the Ukrainian who came up with that idea, man? He went, I'm going to put the doorbell in the tree. I'm going to put bombs up in the tree. And when you push the doorbell, the bombs are going to fall on top of you and blow you up. Like, who the hell thought of that idea anyways? The whole story is insane. But it's a real story.
It's crazy.
It's legit, Matthew. It's legit. But moving on from that into the next clip, we also got to see a Russian soldier surrendering today in the area.
Стоять!
Ты, сука, я сказал, лезь нахуй.
Ложись!
Лиг,
Ложись!
я сказал. Лиг, пидор.
Вставай! Вставай, выходи!
Come on, a little bit of rifle fire.
Да!
And that's the end of the clip. But they took another prisoner today. Hey, let's give it up for Ukraine. Moving on from that into the next clip, we also got to see a destroyed Russian T-80 in the area. Man, that thing's still smoking. Man, this tank got hit so badly, the turret ring actually fell to the floor.
Damn.
Dang, son. Oh, man, I cracked myself up. I really do. I mean, honestly.
Башня вот лежит дальше. Вот так. Все, ладно, мы пошли.
Вот тогда.
Nичего не осталось, ничего дырявое.
Well, that's the end of that clip, and it's time for us to move on to the next one, where we also got to see the Ukrainians hitting our Russian APC. So here's the clip. Chad music.
That's some intense music right there. That's that intense Chad.
What color is your Pagani? But we can see them hitting. We can see them hitting the BMP right there and setting it on fire. Here's the next one.
Wouldn't it suck for your car to be your whole personality?
What color is your Pagani? Dude, wouldn't it suck to just be an asshole? Like, wouldn't it? Like, that really
Wouldn't
would.
it suck to be an asshole and then brag about it? Like, oh, I'm so glad I'm this way. It's just I'm an alpha.
Wouldn't you hate to be one of those guys who paid like $18,000 to get tortured and it's called alpha training or whatever? Wouldn't you hate to be one of those schmucks?
Man.
Like,
oh my god, that makes me cringe so bad.
I know. It's like I think about all that and I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not a schmuck. Like, thank God, thank God I'm not a truant schmuck. But moving on from that and down to the Bakhmut area, we also got to see the Ukrainians repelling a Russian assault in this area today. More Chad music ensues. We see them just bombarding these Russians. A certain deficit in a parking lot. Yeah, that's a stupid thing. They'll hose you down with like freezing water in the middle of a parking lot and you pay $18,000 for that. Like, I can tell you where to do that for free. Just go up to someone who hates you, like your ex or something, and have them hose you down with a cold hose in the middle of a parking lot. It's free. You know, or you could do it to yourself, you know, or, you know, hell, just get in your bathtub and just turn on the shower nozzle and just put it on cold and just sit there and do that. I mean, that's free. You know, why in the hell do you have to pay $18,000 for this? This is stupid. And then, you know, the people
now listen, if it had to come down between the alpha training and getting hosed down by like some douchebags wearing tight t-shirts, or having to be the hot dog man for a week, I'm going with the alpha training, hands down. Put the hose on me.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm not gonna lie, man. Hose me down like in my house on fire at that point, because I will never be hot dog man. I'll die before I become hot dog man.
Yeah, put the fire hydrant on me at that point. Put the whole like flow.
Man, I want the whole ocean put on me. Like drop the
Yeah.
Pacific Ocean on me at that point. And we see them just going after Russian, just endless amounts. Oh, and that we can see some pixels down there. And we can also see some Russians moving around destroyed tank. And we see some more getting hit as well. Overall, it was a fairly effective day in the area. But moving on from that, now to that clip, and further on down and into the Avdiivka front, we also got to see today that near Stepove, some Russians were getting toasted.
Would you like that toasted? Yes.
You
Oh,
covered in your
we
bloody
uncovered they
game.
were born again.
You were
Oh,
born
my
again,
goodness.
governor. I swear to God, yeah. But
He
anyway.
didn't say with the British accent, born again.
Oh, man. That sounded so stupid. You know what? We gotta mute that for just a quick second. I think we're good.
Oh, man, that's crazy. Goodness.
Oh, my goodness. And now the Russians are inside this house, which is going to be demolished. Right there. You can see it being demolished right there. Ooh. You know what, big fish out of water? I'd actually do that before I became hot dog man. I would take a ride on the Titan submersible before I became hot dog
Oh,
man.
dear.
It would be a
Man,
one-way
are
trip.
you want a free ticket on the Titan submersible or be hot dog man for a week? Man, that'll take people 2 seconds to make that decision. They're going on the sub.
You want to go into the Titan submersible and end up being subjected to such great pressures that you turn up to be the filler that they put in hot dogs, or do you want to be hot dog man? I want to become the filler for hot dogs. Down, hands down, I will become a hot dog filler. But moving on from that, we also got to see a Bradley popping smokes. Now check this out. Pretty freaking sick. Oh, I don't know what that was.
And shout out to Andy L, who put in a $50 donation to found out how to donate.
Legend!
Good on you, Andy, because he was having some trouble donating earlier, but he figured it out.
A lot of people have been having trouble donating lately, from what I've heard. Like it's I don't know what it is. I think YouTube's making it a little bit more difficult for reasons, but you know, it is what it is. But moving on from that into the area of Berdichi, we also got to see the Russians burn. And they burn quite nicely. And look, little cats here watching too. And there's the Russian column out there in the distance. All 3 pixels of it burning.
Охуєнно горить, блядь. Сука, щоб ви всі здохли.
And, well, that's nice to see, but showing us a little bit of what's going on in the area around Berdichi. Moving on from that into Avdiivka, we also got to hear a report by the British Ministry of Defense saying that there's reduced attacks in the area. Once again, corroborating what we've been saying. Moving on from that into our next clip, we also got to see an FPV drone hitting a Russian APC. All right, we're going to be muting that. And we can see
Man, the SoundCloud rappers are getting their debut tonight.
Man, they really are, man. You know what I heard the other day that didn't make it on air? An Angry Birds trap remix on one of these videos. I'm telling you, man, it can go too far, and that went too far. Oh, and they're going really far. Oh, and they're flying. They're getting those flight miles. Oh, and they're having to hop off now. What the hell's this guy got? A musket? What the hell is that? We got Elmer Fudd out here in the field. He's just looking at him, man. He's going, be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits. What the hell is that? That's not even a Mosin. It's like a freaking Charleville musket right there, for real. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, he could be a throwback. He's also high stepping too. he's got the whole thing going. High stepping with a musket.
I have to know what kind of a rifle that guy has right there. There's no way that's a Mosin. It just looks too long to be a Mosin. And some people are saying, Mosin, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I mean, it might be what the Russians had before the Mosin. Oh, and that MTLB is cooking up now. Look at it. It's so warm. Spacone noche. But with that, this is a clip. But I gotta tell you, tonight is a crazy night. It's Looney Tunes night out here tonight. No copyright infringement intended. But moving on from that and into the area of Volodymyrivka, we also got to see an MTLB down here run over a mine and blow up. So here's the clip. Okay, Chad music stops. All right, from this point forward, no one can put Chad music in the Ukraine war videos. I'm making a general order on that. It's just going to have to happen. I'm so tired of it. But we can see the MTLB run over the mine right there.
Oh,
and
it just hopped over it.
Oh my God! What an abrupt stop! Oh my God, dude, that thing went from 40 to 0 in like the blink of an eye. Look at this. It's like, oh my God.
Damn. That was like instant like ramen or something. The thing hit the mine, then it went 2 more feet, instant fire, instant death. Look at him scattering, man. How many people were in that thing?
Like 30. Like it was like half a company. But dude, let's go back and look at this again. It hits the mine all the way up there. And they're like, okay, we can keep rolling. And then it just catches on fire instantly, and they're like, get out! There's like 30
they must have had the Russians sitting on each other's laps. No diddy.
Oh my Lord. What a stupid clip. Everyone who got off of that MTLB right there, man, he was so confused because they all have major whiplash now. But moving on from that clip and on into the next one, out of the area, and a little bit further on down towards Krenki, we actually got to see near Radensk today a precision strike occurring on the Russians while they were getting some gas at a gas station. All right. We're also bringing an end to country music being played in the clips as well. There's just no more music. Like, just no more. But we can see the Russians trying to gas up. Aw, man, I'm trying to gas up. But this is a different kind. And we can see that the Russians are about to pay dearly for gassing up. Ooh!
Damn.
Good googly moogly. That thing is juicy. And we see army guys running in from all over. Blitz! Blitz! What happened to Blitz? Oh, I haven't Blitz! And here they all come. Look at them. They're running in like a stream. What happened to Blitz? What a precision strike.
I see some people got my reference to that joke I made earlier today.
Oh, what was the joke?
I said they must have the Russians sitting on each other's laps, no diddy.
I didn't even catch on that until now. But anyways, moving on from that and out of that clip and on to our next one, we also got to see the Ukrainians hitting a Russian MLRS today as well. There's no audio in this clip, as the enforcer intended. And here they come right on down onto that Uragan. Bada boom, baby! Nicholas Condor threw in a 250! Dang! Impressive.
Dang!
We love this
coming in strong on the fundraiser.
We are now up to $3,761 at this point in the fundraiser.
3,945.
Oh, what? Oh my Lord! We are!
It's so high.
Not
higher than hot dog, man, but it works.
Hey, man, nothing could get higher than hot dog, man. We'd have to raise like $100,000 in a single night to get higher than that. Goodness gracious.
Goodness.
Better yet, where's the hit piece, Matthew? I've been waiting for the hit piece. Waiter, another hit piece, please. Another.
I want a hit piece, please. Let's bring on a hit piece, please.
Waiter, another hit piece, please. Yes. But anyways, that's the end of that clip. Nice to see the 93rd doing their thing. And moving on from that clip and out of the area, it's time for us to move up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 774 of the war. And so let me make sure to go grab it. And here it is. And without further ado, here is the speech.
Speech!
Speech!
Дорогі українці, українки, головне за сьогодні фронт та захист наших міст. Був весь день на зв'язку з військовими, з головкомом, також з керівником Служби безпеки України, з міністрами внутрішніх справ і щодо ситуації на передовій, і щодо російських ударів по нашій країні. Окрема увага, звичайно, Харкову. Ситуація в місті дуже жорстка, постійний російський терор. Тепер ще й фактично щоденно авіабомбами. Ми шукаємо можливості дати Харкову більше захисту неба. І це завдання як для військових, так і для усіх дипломатів України, для кожного і кожної, хто відповідає за міжнародну комунікацію, хто щоденно має бути в діалозі з партнерами. Цілком очевидно, що наявних у нас в Україні засобів ППО не вистачає, і це очевидно для усіх наших партнерів, і світ нарешті має почути цей біль, якого російські терористи завдають Харкову, завдають Куп'янську, містам Донеччини, Запоріжжю, Сумщині, багатьом іншим нашим українським громадам. Є системи ППО у світі, які можуть допомогти. Потрібна лише політична воля, щоб ці системи були передані Україні. Я дякую тим країнам, які вже допомогли, і бути активними у виконанні цього завдання – це персональна відповідальність наших дипломатів, які працюють за напрямками та країнами, де є необхідні системи. Зараз патріотам місце саме в Україні, щоб згодом не довелось їх застосовувати щонайменше по всьому східному флангу НАТО. Друге, вже активно готуємо нашу міжнародну роботу на наступні тижні і місяці. Зокрема, плануємо щорічний саміт української благодійної платформи United-24. Говорив із амбасадорами United, подякував їм за активність і зараз, і в минулому році. Зараз усі бачать, що потрібно значно більше особистої енергії, значно більше зусиль, щоб українська тематика залишалась у фокусі світової уваги водночас з багатьма іншими проблемами і конфліктами. Рік непростий, рік виборів в різних країнах та в Євросоюзі, конфлікти і нестабільність і надалі ширяться світом, і не без російських інвестицій у насильство. І я вдячний усім, хто з Україною після цих років війни. Я дякую усім, хто вірить у нас і допомагає нам. Україна має всі можливості, щоб досягти своїх цілей. Головне – бути у єдності з усіма у світі, хто цінує життя безпечне від терору. І третє. Наші воїни, наші бригади, наша вдячність кожному і кожній, хто зараз в боях, хто на передовій, хто захищає Україну від російського зла своєю сміливістю. 35-та окрема бригада морської піхоти діє на Придніпровському напрямку. Дякую вам, хлопці. Покровський напрямок, 71-ша окрема єгерська бригада і 47-ма окрема механізована бригада. Дякую. Лиманський напрямок, 95-та окрема бригада ДШВ, молодці. Куп'янський напрямок, 57-ма окрема мотопіхотна бригада. Дякую. Дякую усім, хто здобуває для України можливість вистояти проти терору, можливість захистити українське життя. Слава Україні!
And big hand in the screen right there. That's the first time I've ever seen him do that. It's like he's about to grab the camera. But with that, that's the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 774 of the news of the war in Ukraine. And it's about time for us. It's about time to move on into that next segment. We got to talk about all kinds of stuff, y'all. We got lots of stuff to talk about. We got to talk about the war. We got to talk about my esophagus collapsing right there.
Goodness.
We got to talk about everything that's been going on today. But beyond that, most importantly, we have to talk about the medical emergency that just happened as I was trying to inhale some air in my esophagus, just decided you ain't going to do it. But nevertheless, Matthew, take it away while I try and figure out what the hell's going on over here.
All right. So with that, we are fresh out of polls, and we're now moving into our live chat questions once again. No super chats tonight, of course, because it is fundraiser night. And by the way, we're up to $4,020 in the fundraiser, which is very impressive indeed. And with that, we're jumping into our Morse code decoders of the stream first. And tonight, it was Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Kevin J., Rumpelstiltskin, David Millsaps, and Toxic Bananas. They said, Enforcer LSA Signal Corps Morse code report. The Russians are playing with a dangerous outcome. The ZNPP needs to be in a neutral zone. Long live the LSA.
And that's the sound of money. And y'all had that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. Y'all have done it again on the 774th day of the war. Y'all are still getting that Morse code message dead on the nail. And I congratulate y'all for that. It's truly impressive and a massive feat. And so thank y'all once again for doing that. And I'd have to say that Morse code message has been beat dead tonight before we even got to what the Morse code message was. But with that, it's time for us to move on. And them live chats themselves. But Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so first up, we got one from Nova, who says that the power plant would be a regional disaster for all of Europe. And would this be grounds for NATO to escalate and maybe send in special forces to secure the plant?
I think it would be. If something like that happened, it would probably be serious grounds for a massive international response, just from, not just from NATO, but from many other nations as well, I would believe. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jay Casey, who says, what munitions were actually used to hit the reactor hull?
We have no idea. That is an incredible question, but we didn't get that kind of clarity from the IAEA director today, my boy Grossi. He didn't put out that info today. He just put out the fact that it had been hit 3 times and then didn't elaborate any further on that. So sadly, we have no idea what hit it. It could be artillery, it could be drones, could be anything. But something did hit it and explode on it, and apparently has caused enough damage that it was visible and noticeable. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to AF Kaplan, who says, if the ZNPP melts down and fallout hits NATO territory, would that be sufficient to trigger Article 5?
That would be up to the people who are in charge of NATO at the moment and how they want to interpret Article 4 and Article 5. Back in the day when the Chernobyl nuclear power plant blew up in northern Ukraine, it actually did not trigger anything in NATO. We simply asked, what's going on in there? The Russians said, oh, the Aurora Borealis? And then we went, oh, okay. And then they just went on to cleaning up the reactor. The Soviets weren't able to hide it for that long, though. They did make it clear eventually that a nuclear meltdown did occur, and it was a very serious one. But we didn't really do anything back then, so the historical precedent would be that we would not react in any major way if the reactor was to melt down now. But it is, of course, entirely different because it's an ongoing war in the area, and the reactor would most likely melt down due to actions directly related to the conducting of war. So it really depends on how they want to interpret it. And a lot of people want to give a yes or a no to that flat out and act like they know the answer. But the honest truth is that the NATO charter is only as good as the people who are interpreting it. So it could be interpreted to mean that that is an attack on NATO, or it could be interpreted to mean that that is not an attack on NATO at all. And in fact, there's nothing that they could do whatsoever. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to Anonymous, who says, is it possible that Russia believes Ukraine is responsible for the dam that burst in Russia, so Russia decided to attack the nuke plant?
I don't think so, because the dam collapse inside of Russia, we are fairly certain now that it has nothing to do with Ukraine at all. It's just that it was a crippling infrastructure issue, because it was an earthen dam. I believe it was actually this, there is a dam up here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. What the hell is that? Is this coal? Ew, this is just nothing but coal? What the hell is this? That is so stupid. It's not even a river. It's not even water. This is just like coal or something. Hang on, I gotta go back up here. What the hell? Oh, wait a minute, we gotta actually look at this. Hang on, there's gotta be some way we can look at this. Oh, okay. Let's see if we can actually see it from a distance. Dude, I would not want to live here. Like, I would not want to live in Orsk. This place looks awful. like, look at all the garbage that's on the side of the street, dude. Russians have been here. We can tell. Like, it's confirmed. It's proven. But let's see. So I've actually been curious about this, y'all, and I haven't been saying this a lot. I don't even know where this reservoir ruptured for there to be a massive leak. Look, there's another like coal heap thing down here. Is there a way we can look at this one? I think there is. Okay, so we turn. So these are just giant coal heaps or something? What the hell are
Just
these?
giant slag heaps or something, like Chris's mom.
Whoa, hey, easy, Matthew. Chris's mom hasn't made it to Orsk yet. We haven't heard about the massive increase of syphilis cases, so let's just hold our horses there. But let's see here. The Ural tables. Oh, this is kind of pretty.
Yeah, what do you know?
Oh, look, a murder scene.
Oh, oh dear.
Oh, that's not that pretty. Oh, look. Huh. What do you know? This place isn't that pretty, actually. But anyways, moving on from that, I gotta find the reservoir that ruptured in the first place for there to be... Was it this one? No, it was not this one. No, it wasn't. It was too far away. I honestly have no idea what dam ruptured. I don't know. So, to be entirely honest with you, I would have no idea if they sabotaged it or not, because I can't even really find it in the first place. But one thing I can find...
They got the Orsk floods on the map, it looked like. There was like a little thing that said Orsk floods.
Yeah, the Orc floods. Right there. Look at that. Updated a day ago. Nice. I like to see
From government updates in Russian.
And also, Matthew, look. Here's the city of Kherson.
Oh.
Is there any other interesting cities nearby?
GW North said, that big puddle is the flood. Zoom in.
That big puddle is the flood. No, this is a coal pile right here. Like, you can tell.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like, you can tell. It's not water, that's coal. Because this one looks a lot like the one that's down here that's a little bit smaller. And this is a giant coal pile right here. So, take that for what it is. But beyond that, let's see here. Anything else interesting in this area? No, not really. There's Klamovka. But, not really much more. So, unfortunately, I had to declare ignorance because I can't really find the dam to really be able to talk about much. I would assume that they probably ended up not hitting the dam. It was probably just something that happened because it happened. And I don't believe that they're going to be melting down the reactor as a consequence of that. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to Old Foggy, who says, is Russia beginning to understand that they will not keep Ukraine and are trying to do as much damage as possible?
That might be the case. It may possibly be so. But once again, we really don't know when the reactor's been hit. It looks like it's just been accidentally hit or deliberately hit several times, maybe over a large period of time. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Quantum Fighter, who says, it's really funny to me that the Ukrainian word ombudsman means pretty much the same thing as it does in Swedish. And do you know why and how come that is?
Oh, man. That's like a language question. I have no idea. Let's see. How do you spell that?
Ombudsman. O-M-B-U-D-S-M-A-N. Ombudsman. Yeah, in a sentence.
Let's see here. Not now. Let's see. Public advocate is a government employee who investigates and tries to resolve complaints, usually through recommendations or mediation. So they're a mediator, pretty much. I have no idea why they would be similar. Language-wise, the languages are entirely different. The Nordic countries follow a Norse language tree is the best way to explain it. And then the Slavs follow their own Slavic language tree. So I don't know why they would be similar, but still a pretty interesting coincidence if that is the case. Actually, a cool little fun fact, really quickly, is that there actually was proof that apparently there was a Native American tribe here in northern Alabama and southern Tennessee that actually wrote and spoke Welsh before the arrival of European settlers. And it's believed that that was because the Welsh expedition, because if y'all don't know, there's this weird theory that exists, and it seems that it may actually have some historical backing behind it, that the Welsh which are actually our family lineage, pretty much. Matthew, my family lineage, traveled from Wales to America before Leif Erikson even did, around 1072 or so, and ended up actually landing in the Gulf of Mexico, in the Mobile Bay in Alabama. Ended up making contact with Native American tribes. Ended up staying here for a while. Some of them decided to remain, and then the voyage eventually made its way back to Wales. I believe a couple of years later, and it was all accounted in the story. And the Welsh said that there was a land beyond the seas where people were completely different and everything, and it had nothing similar to Europe at all. And nobody believed the story at all, ever, because everyone thought that was absolute bogus. And then Leif Erikson came over, and then no one heard about that. And then finally, Christopher Columbus was the one who actually arrived in 1492 and discovered the Americas as they were. And then that's when people actually believed that there was something beyond the seas, although Christopher Columbus actually did believe that they had ended up landing in India and not in North America. But beyond that, that's why there is a interesting little bit of actual archaeological evidence that there was Welsh writing on some stone structures inside of northern Alabama and also in southern Tennessee, because it's believed to be that those were the remainder of the Welsh people that remained with the Native American tribe in the area, actually ended up spreading on the Welsh language to them and ended up living there for several hundred years until the European settlers, the actual colonists, arrived in the area, and then those Native Americans were pushed out and that cultural legacy was lost. But still, a pretty interesting little bit of history there, and maybe something like that was had in between the Swedes and the Ukrainians. That was really the whole point of me telling the story. But who knows? But with that, we are on to the next one.
In our next one is going to go to Bobo Yizela, who says, do you think that Gerasimov is buried in the Iranian desert?
Good question. I would doubt it, me personally. I think Gerasimov would end up drying out the desert even further with that dry expression he always has. But with that,
Gerasimov looks like he's like drunk 24/7. Like I don't know if like it's publicized that he's a drunkard or what, but I would lay money on it that he's a hardcore drunkard, because he has that look in his face like he's always like dazed and out of it and always sort of like drooping around. Like if you go look at other photos of him, you'll see he looks like a drunk.
Right there.
Well, maybe not this one, but he's at a military function here.
What type of stupid posture is that he has? There's like no posture to that at all. Let me see here. The American general has a posture. This guy in the middle, let's see here. I don't know who the hell the guy in the middle is. Who is this? He's a former 4-star Turkish Armed Forces general. So this is actually the Turkish Armed Forces uniform. Actually not that bad. I actually kind of respect it. It doesn't look bad. And then there's him. No posture. Bad posture. But let's see, what else do we have? Oh, there he is right there.
Go back to Google Images and look at pictures of Gerasimov.
Okay, I'll have to take this off screen and transfer it over to Images.
There's one photo of him standing outside somewhere, and he's all drooped over and stuff. He's like dog drunk, like in his military uniform.
Do you see it?
That one, yeah, the top one, the Al Jazeera one, right there at the top. Yeah, look,
oh my god,
that dude is dog drunk, like in that photo, and he's trying to talk to people about the Ukraine war, dog drunk like that.
Man, he's a little sauced, maybe lost in the sauce. But check this out.
Oh man, that hat though.
Man, that hat is pretty pompous right there. I'm not gonna lie. But let's see here. What else do we have? Here he is in a gray uniform. Interesting.
Look at Shoigu though. He looks like they spotted something he wants a piece of.
Dude, Shoigu looks like he might be walking around. You might want to cover your drinks when he's walking around. I wouldn't trust him around him. You know what I mean? Like he might be.
No, did he?
Yeah, he might be pulling a little bit of a Weinstein around there or something. You know, you never know. But oh my goodness, dude?
Whoa!
Oh my gosh, goodness gracious! No one looks good in this picture. This guy gets.
That guy on the left has definitely had a drink too.
Dude, this guy in the far left in the back, he's gonna kick out the whole thing. He's like, dude, we all look like shit. He knows it. He knows who the picture's being taken. Let's see here. What else do we have? What the hell is this?
Whoa! They did him dirty.
Oh my god!
Damn,
Dude,
Lord.
Dude, the Financial Times is out here assassinating people. It's like, oh my god! Never.
Man, they destroyed him. Not with facts and logic, but they destroyed him with the soul.
Oh my god! Oh my god, that is so bad.
Damn.
That is so terrible. Why that? Like, okay, listen, I'm all for hating on the guy. But I don't know where you destroy someone's ego like this. What the hell? Like, this is criminal, actually. This is pretty damn bad. But let's see here. What else do we have?
Look at him holding that Makarov, though. Do you see that?
Wait,
Look
where?
at him one-handed the Makarov over there.
With
that big goofy hat on. What's he aiming at over there? The squirrel?
Dude, someone pissed him off a little. Someone said, you need to not be so drunk. And then he decided to shoot him and kill him. But let's see here. What else do we have? Why the long face embodied in a picture? Let's see here. We have him right here, the day after the after party. Looks like he's still hungover.
But seriously speaking, though, like Gerasimov he looks like a guy that's probably an alcoholic, most likely. And he also maybe has some like depression problems or something, like seriously speaking. Because every single photo you see the guy, he looks like he's on the verge of like losing it or something. Like he's like hanging off the edge or something. He's definitely not happy in his position, I can tell you that for certain.
But
he's not good at it.
But I'll tell you this, man. Sorry to interrupt you there. I thought you were done. But one thing I will say, that at least he's not as bad as this. At least he's not Butterbean in the Russian army.
Oh, jeez. Hey, what happened to him?
What do you mean?
Surovikin? Like, where'd he go?
Oh, dude, he just disappeared. Remember, I think he got arrested and put in prison or something like that.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about him. That was way early on. That was the Wagner coup.
Yeah. Yeah, that was him. Yeah, he got arrested and put in prison for that, remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like he disappeared off the face of the earth, basically. Like, he went the way of Gherkin.
Man, they're now buttering his bean. You know what I mean? Like, he's not having a good time in prison. I'll promise you that. But let's see here. Dude, oh my goodness. This guy, what the hell is this look? Dude, it looks like he just got, like, lobotomized right here.
Gee, look at that picture below it in the middle, though.
Oh,
look at that jaw.
Dude, that jaw. Oh my God. Jeez, he got diamonds with that thing. Oh my Lord.
Man, he looks like that, what's that character? Lynn and Scrimpy or something like that? What's that?
No,
Scrimpy?
he looks like Mr. Chen from the Fairly Odd Parents. Like Mr.
No,
Chen.
man, pull up Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy, I think it is.
Wait, the cowboy guy? Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's the Ren and Stimpy when he wakes up and he's like in black and white and everything. You know, like he's sick of waking up like this.
Wait, hang on. Guy waking up meme. Yeah, now I know it. Oh, dude, dead on. Yeah, look at this. Oh my Lord.
There he is. Look at him.
Oh,
There's Gerasimov. That's how he wakes up in the morning.
Oh my Lord. That's what? Oh my God, dude, that chin right there, though, man. Watch out, dude. He could execute people with that chin. He just smacks that thing down on someone. It'll cleave him in twixt. You know what I mean? Like, good Lord, watch out. But you know, Matty, that brings us on to something else. You know, Shoigu. That brings us on to Shoigu. All right, what kind of pictures do we have of Shoigu here? Dude, they doctored up this picture like he was damn Joseph Stalin or something, man. They put that beautification filter on him, like made his skin all like perfect looking. Like that's weird.
He's wearing
looking.
that foundation and lipstick and eyeliner too in this photo. It looks like.
Man, well, they always like to say that he's Putin's #1 boy, you know. But let's see here. What else do we have? We have this picture where he's trying to rizz up the Russian government. I think he's failing. What else do we have?
he said hello.
He said, "How are you doing, secretary?" And she said, "I'm doing good." And he said, "I know you are." There's something like that. But let's see here. What else do we have? This picture. Ew. Yikes. Let's see here. This one where he's telling the secretary what he plans on doing for the rest of the day. No. He's reaching out. He's going in for it. Right here, we can see the bulbous nose that this guy's got. I mean, Jesus. Like,
oh my god!
Like you could grab the end of that nose and squeeze it, and it sound like a clown horn. It really would. Like, I'm not kidding.
Man, it looks like he's been punched in the face or like in the nose or something like that. That does not look natural. Like seriously,
dude, it looks like if you squeeze down in that nose, it would go and something like that. It's like, what the hell? But let's see here. What else do we have? Let's see, we got him here apparently bloated. I don't know why he's bloated, but
man, Kim Jong-un looks like he just had the happiest day of his life. He's like, this is so great. It's like, why is he so happy? And why is also Shoigu like, Shoigu looks like he's done something like mischievous or wrong or something like that.
Dude,
man,
honestly,
these two have been up to stop and look at that, and they're just so happy.
Honestly, it looks like Shoigu crapped his pants the way he's standing. It's like this awkward stance. It's like, what the hell is this? But let's see here. Okay, so... Oh, no. That is an AR ripoff that he's holding right there. Why?
Put it down.
Put it down. Don't disgrace our weapons, you bastard. Let's see here. What else do we have? All right, he's looking exceptionally like 10 in this picture. I don't know why. Apparently he can change colors. Very interesting. What else do we have? Oh no, they tried to do him like Jurassic. What the hell? Dude, that's honestly...
Wait a minute, it says silent strongman Sergei Shoigu is the real force behind Russia's military aggression. Who wrote this? who wrote this?
The Spectator. They aren't spectating well enough. They need to spectate harder, I'll tell you that. What else do we have?
Look closely. Oh, they did a South Park rendition of him right there on the on the bottom.
I'm not scrolling down. Like that set off a red flag to me. I was like, I'm not scrolling down and looking at the rest of them. But let's see here. What else do we have at the main page? Let's see. All right, they're getting a little romantical. All right. Let's see, what else do we have? We got... What the hell are these pictures? What do they do in North Korea? It's like the side mission of the video game. They just do whatever the hell they want down there. What is, like... Hang on. We've what the hell are these pictures?
I've never seen these before.
I've never seen them either. And why in the world does everyone around Kim Jong-un and Gerasimov look completely befuddled? And then you got Dilbert the Giant back here just standing over both of them looking like he's going to go, I'm going to eat your toes or something like that. It's like, what the hell is going on around here in this chaotic land? What is this crap? Like, I'm not saying what is this just to say it. What is this stuff? Why in the world does this guy look like he doesn't even know where he is? Why is he wearing a normal t-shirt under his uniform?
He's wearing that dry fit like gym clothes.
Yeah, he is. He just got done at Planet Fitness. He set off the lung alarm and then he showed up here. That's what he did. Like, and then this guy over here, he looks like he's ready to just end it all. Like he's ready to just get the rope out and get to it. Like this man here. He's a swinger, but in a different way, like with the rope. But let's see here. Dude, looking through pictures of Russian generals is some of the funniest. They're inspecting the boy. Like, what the hell what is Kim Jong-un doing on that guy?
Oh, yeah, really, man. He's close up behind him,
dude,
really.
He's getting
and where's his other hand?
He's getting up behind him. He's like, I like that you have toned the muscles. And this guy's like, just do not move. Just do not move, and he won't see you. But, like, oh, my Lord. None of this makes sense. I don't know about y'all, but... Oh my goodness. What is this laugh? Dude, no. Dude, right here, he's literally going, like he's just like that. This is a trip. We got to move on from this, though, because it's too much. And we have so many more questions to cover. But with that, what else do we have, Matthew?
So our next question is going to go to Cosmic Dust. He says, I read that a Russian gold train was hijacked by Ukraine coming out of Belarus. Has anyone seen that?
I haven't. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. I know that somehow, some way, someone conducted a $300 million bank heist in Los Angeles, I think, like this week. But I don't know about a gold train being hijacked in Belarus. That I'm not entirely sure about. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Ryan Clark, who says, any news on down south where they crossed the river and have held ground there for months and months and months now?
Yes, we have gotten news. They're still holding that ground from what I've been able to find, but some Ukrainian soldiers ended up surrendering today in the area, and it got really nasty. The Russians executed all of the prisoners. Then it was recorded on film. So that's really the only update I have at the moment. So I hope that addresses that fairly well. A very unfortunate thing. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to Weird Speed, who says, what do you think about the theory that Russia conducted a false flag on a nuclear plant, given that the evidence in China's insistence of no nukes or nuclear disasters, as in late 22?
I would have to say I'm not really a big proponent or believer in a false flag at the moment being conducted by the Russians. Considering if they really wanted the nuclear power plant to melt down, they could easily blow it up. I mean, it's in their control. It's not like they're trying to hit it at range. They could just put some bombs inside of it and blow it up if they wanted to, or force it into a meltdown. So I would have to say I'm not really a big proponent of that theory at the moment, but there really is no better one to go with right now. So with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Avari Mandabranis, who says, Enforcer, which U.S. paramilitary unit would best be suited to infiltrating and taking over the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and how about other NATO units and non-NATO units?
I would have to say that the best American unit to probably get that job done would most likely be, that's a really hard one. It's usually the Army Special Forces, or really all the Special Forces, are revolving around actually conducting armed combat, not really holding a place. That's a good question. I have a feeling that Delta Force would probably be the best one, in my opinion. Of course, the go-to answer would be SEAL Team, a SEAL team. But I feel like that wouldn't really be the best thing for the SEAL teams to do. Probably Delta Force would be a better option for that. Really, you could send any special forces you want. And when the British, it would most likely be the SAS, probably with support from the SBS, which is a special boat service. You could also have, let me see here. I'm trying to think about what else. You could probably have the French GIGN, if I'm remembering that correctly. They could try and do that as well. But that would be my best answer. I have to be entirely honest. I don't really look into special forces much because everyone fawns over the special forces, and I'm usually one who wants to go against the grain. So I ended up looking and researching a lot more about your normal armed forces, more so than the special forces, because the special forces, in the amount of stuff they do, is actually fairly small in comparison to the amount that an army does in the middle of an ongoing war. So usually it's better just to focus on the more so normal things, which is just the normal armed forces, than the special forces. But with that, I hope that does address that well, at least based off of my limited knowledge. And with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
All right. And the third to last question of the night goes to nobody, because I don't have a third question. Oh, well, look, we just got one from AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang. Thank you very much. He said, do you think that the end of Ramadan and the celebrations involved means that Iran will wait until after April the 13th?
It may possibly mean that, yes. They may wait until after the end of Ramadan, but we believe at the moment, according to U.S. intelligence, that they're actually planning on conducting the attack before the end of Ramadan, most likely for the reason that the holiday is around right now. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I apparently understand now that we are out of questions, if I'm correct, Matthew.
Yes, I don't have any more. We've gone through 20 of them so far, and we've gone through a lot. And that one that just came in from AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang has been the only one we've gotten since. So I think that could be all. I was trying to read something here real quick from Lisa. I thought, is this a question? And I was like, oh, she put in some kind words. I was like, thank you for the kind words, Lisa.
And thank you so much for the kind words, Lisa. And funnily enough, we actually didn't have a final question of the night because we answered it without going through the whole bravura. And so with that, funnily enough, that's the end of the stream. I got to thank all of y'all so much once again for watching. We greatly appreciate all of y'all watching the stream, enjoying it, and appreciating it. Not only that, helping out the Sunday fundraiser incredibly. Y'all got it up to $4,089 by the time we were rounding out this stream, and we are entirely appreciative of each and every single one of y'all being here tonight, and not only that, enjoying this stream and helping out this fundraiser and helping the Lee Spring Army to continue to keep its flag flying high over the entirety of the internet. It is absolutely incredible to know that we were able to do this with y'all. If y'all did enjoy, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and, of course, you see us around on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 48 hours of the news of the war. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And good night, folks, and thank you all for another successful fundraiser. Tonight, $4,089. Extremely impressive, and a huge shout out to everyone in the LSA for making that possible. And tomorrow, we will be putting out a short war summary. Be sure to watch that. The Enforcer will be on that one, and no stream tomorrow, but we'll be back on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. And once again, thank you all for watching. The LSA is great, and of course, Slava Ukraine, Heroem Slava, and good night.
Yes. The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Ooh.